Royal Rumble 2018. Wow, I'm feeling nostalgic right now, especially after the Women's Royal Rumble match. We got to see Trish Stratus, Lita, Molly, Holly, Jacqueline. Oh, there were some other, Mickie James, I guess, is still around, but even she brought back some memories. The Bella Twins haven't been gone for that long. Michelle McCool, Tori Wilson. Yeah, it was quite the Women's Royal Rumble for nostalgia. The Men's Royal Rumble, I thought, is the thing that stole the show. Oh, that was the most enjoyable Royal Rumble I remember in a long time. So, but we'll get to that. Let's kind of go through some of the other stuff that happened first quickly, if you want to. Actually, we're probably going to concentrate on kind of the main matches, the two Royal Rumbles, and maybe a couple of the championship matches most. We had the early pre-show stuff. I didn't realize Jack Gallagher had turned heel, but I guess he had at some point. 205's hurt now without Enzo. Maybe Neville will come back. They did their job. They did some fast moves, some good moves, but it just seemed like, I know it was the first match too, and if you've ever been to a pay-per-view, you know they're starting early. This would have been 7 o'clock though in Philadelphia, so you think they could have gotten there and got it started, but the crowd was dead. The Revival, nice to see them beat Gallows and Anderson, but once again, not much happening there. At least they both kind of got in the pay-per-view. I like with the club now, Gallows and Anderson maybe getting both of these teams are getting a little bit of a push going, so at least they made the pay-per-view in Royal Rumble. That's not too bad, but what you're expecting now, especially with two Royal Rumble matches and of course the two championship matches, you know there's not going to be much time on the regular show, so yeah, get these people in the pre-show. Bobby Roode defeated Mojo Rawley. I guess there was a rumor from some of the head people, like, I don't know if it was, which newsletters it was, but like the big ones, that this was not expected, that Mojo Rawley was not supposed to be the person there, and that whoever was going to be it was moved to the Rumble. I'm almost wondering if it was Dolph Ziggler. I can't figure out the whole Dolph Ziggler thing. He shows up at the Rumble, as we'll mention later, but so he drops the U.S. title, but now he's back. I mean, what, is the U.S. title not good enough for me? I hope they clear something up with this in the next couple weeks, because right now it's just completely confusing. And if you listen to some of my other past shows, huge Dolph Ziggler fan, so I don't know what's going on there. So we'll get to the main show. I love the fact that we start off with AJ Styles and Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn, and I was just thinking, because this is starting off, something weird is going to happen. You've heard rumors that maybe Daniel Bryan would end up in the Royal Rumble and even winning the Royal Rumble, all sorts of stuff, and this was not what I was expecting. I was not expecting AJ Styles to win. I guess it wasn't clean because they missed the tag, but with all the stuff going back and forth, there's going to be that little bit of questioning that, like, Kevin Owens, the controversy, Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn didn't make the tag, Kevin Owens won pin. But isn't that what we just saw with the tag team title like a month ago? I mean, are we pulling dusty finishes here now, and we don't even have new ideas? But at least I was so worried that they were going to run down to the ring and, like, okay, the match has to restart now because he pinned the wrong person. And I'm just like, no, please, don't do that. And at least they didn't do that, so I'm going to assume we'll see what happens on Tuesday with that. But Shinsuke is actually going up against AJ. So as soon as AJ won this match and they didn't seem to change it, I'm just like, okay, well, that actually, Shinsuke was definitely a big possibility of winning the Royal Rumble. And this is going to make sense now. Shinsuke is going to go up against AJ for the championship. And I didn't have a problem with that. It's just what's going to happen with Owens and Zayn now. Probably feud with Shane McMahon, and we'll see where that goes from there. Who knows, maybe Shane McMahon will get a part of it. And what's up with Daniel Bryan? Daniel Bryan actually seemed really happy after the Rumble, just celebrating with Shane McMahon there. So you have the SmackDown Tag Team Champions, the Usos against Gable and Benjamin. I'm just sitting here. I actually don't mind either of these teams, but I'm like, 3 falls. So what's going to happen is one team's going to win one fall, one team's going to win the other fall, and then the only thing I really care about is the third fall. And they at least did something a little unique there. They had the first fall, kind of seemed like it took a while, so I'm like, okay, this is going to be a really long tag team championship. Except then you kind of saw it happening in the second fall. I'm like, okay, they attacked them real quick, so Gable and Benjamin are going to take a really quick second fall, and then the third fall will probably go back to the Usos in a little quicker way, and that's fine too. And then the Usos pull up the surprise roll up as after they got attacked. But whoever the Uso was on the outside of the ring, he was supposed to be out for like a while because they did that finishing move on the floor to him. And then as soon as they won the match, he's all like backing up and jumping, and yeah, come on, sell it a little bit, Uso. So yeah, not much here. You kind of figured the Usos were going to win. Like I said, it was at least unique. I mean, we had a little bit of excitement there right at the beginning of Fall 2, and that's the way it ended then too. So yeah, I can handle that. We go right to the Men's Royal Rumble match. Rusev was actually, I mean, I don't really make picks online, but Rusev was my pick to win it all. So when he came out at number 1, it was kind of like, okay, this is not gonna, my picks, I need a new, it's kind of like when you're in one of those fantasy football drafts and you need a new team. But at least I figured Rusev would last for a while, and he did. He didn't last but as soon as he was number 1, I'm like, Rusev, they're not going to run the table with Rusev. I figured they'd have him last a while. He had some moments. The crowd was behind him. I'm going to say for all the men, was the crowd behind him the most. I mean, you had a couple other things, like towards the end, obviously, there's can be a little different crowd, but I think from the beginning of the crowd, we had Rusev chants all night, Rusev Day chants. I think the crowd was behind him the most of all. Finn Balor did a great job starting at number 2, lasted a very long time into the final 4, and actually when he got to the final 4, I'm like, he could be a kind of a surprise winner, but certainly I like the fact that he did him well, because he definitely could be someone who went from number 2 to the end, and that wouldn't shock you. It'd be a little surprising, but it wouldn't shock you at all. And then they just had some fun stuff. Actually, Baron Corbin allowed kind of this whole little thing of fun to happen, and I really enjoyed it. So, hey, did you guys enjoy this part? It depends on how many Rumbles. I mean, I've watched Rumbles. I've probably watched them live now for about 23, 24. I think I started watching them live in about 95 or 96. And I've watched every Rumble live since then. And the ones before that I just watch when they'd come out on video, or usually you'd watch Raw or Primetime Wrestling the next night and get the results. So yeah, so I've watched a lot of Rumbles, and that was a very, very entertaining little thing that happened. Corbin gets surprisingly eliminated, and he lasted long last year, and I don't think they haven't really. Corbin's just interesting. They sometimes seem like they give him a push and then they bury him. It's like back and forth, but he's not completely buried right now. He's definitely someone who has some credentials, and so for him to be eliminated that fast was very surprising. And then he just kind of like blows his stack and takes out Slater on the way to the ring, takes out Rusev, takes out Balor. It was just, everyone's just laying there. So then Elias comes out, tries to sing a little bit, and everyone's kind of, okay, yeah, so this is another, I'm sure some of you are going to think this was the stupidest part, and I got a kick out of it, though. It was like, Slater would come up to the ring and someone would just take a cheap shot at Slater. Someone takes another cheap shot at Slater. Throw some pancakes at Slater. And Slater is very entertaining. It worked perfectly. They didn't overdo it. Eventually they got him into the ring, and he ended up eliminating Sheamus very quickly, which is really exciting too, because that was a surprise. And Sheamus can take a burying moment like that because it's not hurting him. He's going to win the tag team title later that night, so it was perfect. Sheamus was a perfect guy to do that too. You didn't need Sheamus going over. You're not burying Sheamus. You give the crowd one of those moments that's just really hilarious and funny, and everyone's behind Slater. Slater eventually gets eliminated. You have all 3 members of the New Day in the ring. Shinsuke enters at 14, which is kind of like, hey, that's not a bad number, and it'll be nice to. That's about what you don't have to have him run the table, but definitely you figure he's going to be around for a while. You had Jinder Mahal at 17, Seth Rollins at 18. A couple people that could have won. Cena at 20. Kind of had the feeling Cena was not going to win because I didn't really see what they were going to do with him at WrestleMania. And the Hurricane, the big surprise entrant there, so that was kind of funny. I didn't know what what was up with that? The last I heard, I thought he was in TNA, so he's maybe defected a little bit too. I thought he was a trainer or something there, but we'll have to see. I don't know his situation. Adam Cole from NXT not too long ago in ROH, so you saw him. Randy Orton at 24, The Miz at 26, definitely could have won. And then the big surprise of the night, Rey Mysterio at 27. Be interested to see if this is a one-time thing or if Rey does anything else. Made a pretty good showing for himself. Roman Reigns at 28, and of course Dolph Ziggler at 30. It's kind of those are kind of the ones that seemed important. You got down to the final four with Reigns, Cena, Shinsuke, and Balor. And when you got down to that final four, I was kind of thinking, I like this final four because any of the four could win it. I mean, I would have ranked him at that point, Shinsuke, Balor, Reigns, Cena as chances to win. Reigns and Balor probably the two close. Reigns could have possibly been second because, you never know if they're just going to push Reigns for the sake of pushing Reigns. And you could tell the fans did not want to see Roman Reigns within this Rumble, and Roman Reigns did not need to win the Rumble. So it ended well. Shinsuke with the win. Was down to Shinsuke and Reigns. You kind of had that feeling, but you were still, it was in the back of your mind, this isn't going to be another one of these Roman Reigns amazing victories, is it? So it gave you stuff to watch. But I love it when you get to the final four and you don't know who's going to win. Sometimes it's so predictable. This year was pretty good overall because I would say you could have someone like The Miz winning. You could have Shinsuke, Cena, Reigns, Balor. I would have put Rusev in that list as a possible winner. And maybe looking at the list, I guess possibly someone like Seth Rollins or Randy Orton. I didn't think Randy Orton was going to win it again, but a very, very, very enjoyable match. This was the match of the night, which usually it is a kind of a given at the Rumble that it's going to be. But this year with the Women's Royal Rumble, it wasn't for sure given, and so we'll get to the Women's Royal Rumble in a minute. But between the two, then we go on to the Raw Tag Team Championships. Jason Jordan gets attacked on the outside when Seth Rollins is going for a tag. Ran face first into the post. It looked pretty good. I mean, they did a good job of ramming his face in the post to make it look really believable. Never got the tag in. Tagged in for a quick second, looked really woozy, so he tagged Rollins back. And even though there was no contact, and I remember, wasn't the rule, I think it was on a Saturday Night's Main Event where Jesse Ventura once said, the rule is you have to actually make contact before you can tag the other person back in. So they broke Jesse Ventura's rule there, but they always changed, just like when they changed the rules in the 2 out of 3 falls matches, it's like sometimes they can win as long as one of them falls is a pinfall, and sometimes the titles can't change hands if one of the falls is a disqualification. They've changed that. If you go back and look at history of tag team titles, 2 out of 3 falls as to when the titles change hands on a disqualification as in one of the falls, it's never been consistent. So yeah, not very consistent there. Not surprised. I don't know what they're doing with Seth Rollins. I know they're probably just kind of, all their plans are out the window with Dean Ambrose hurt for so long, and I mean, they got to just turn Jason Jordan heel here now, and I don't think you could have done it when he had the titles. So yeah, let's see what happens there. Maybe it's going to be Jason Jordan and Seth Rollins in a singles push here eventually, and I could handle seeing that. And hopefully they can find a couple tag teams in to come up and give us some fresh looks there. Maybe something like the Revival or something like that. Then you have the Universal Championship match: Brock Lesnar, Braun Strowman, Kane. Kind of very predictable that Lesnar was going to somehow pin Kane. There was a few spots with announced tables. It's great that they have all these new French and German and Mandarin, and I know I'm missing some languages. Portuguese, I think, Japanese, Chinese. I guess Chinese would kind of be Mandarin and stuff like that, because you have more announced tables to go through and clear out, and just. Yeah, it was just one of those, a lot of announced tables, a lot of chairs. Brock Lesnar pins Kane, which makes sense. You don't bury Braun Strowman at all. Braun Strowman looked strong. Brock Lesnar looked strong. Kane looked fine, but his job was to make the other two look strong. At this point in his career, he looked good, because I believe he's 51 years old, maybe, and looking very good. Yeah, I mean, kudos to Kane for putting together what he did put together. But yeah, this was exactly the way it needed to happen. It was fine. I mean, I enjoyed the match. It wasn't a scientific match, and I enjoyed it. Lesnar's going to go into WrestleMania. It'll be interesting to see who he ends up facing. I guess we'll find out at Elimination Chamber, or I'm going to guess that the Elimination Chamber is going to be for the #1 contendership at WrestleMania, and it's not going to be for the actual title itself, but we'll have to see on that. I haven't been following it that closely. Then you go to the 30 Women's Royal Rumble. This was the one that was the biggest mystery to me of the night. I thought it was great. I love seeing the women's movement, and it's so cool to see that them have enough for the Royal Rumble. Something I liked about it, but first of all, if you notice, the crowd was dead for most of it. And this was the last match of the night, and I know you went through the Men's Royal Rumble, which the crowd was just hot for, and this was supposed to be the big one. Even though I have seen a couple people on some of my social media accounts say that the women's match outshone the men's match, but I didn't see that at all. And if you go by the crowd reaction, definitely not. But we'll mention a few things. Sasha Banks and Becky Lynch start the match, kind of makes sense, and you're going to see, as soon as they had Sasha start the match, I'm like, she's going to be there towards the end too, which is fine. Then you kind of go through, you had like some of those new people like Logan, Rose, and then the first surprise Lita is number 5, Lita coming back. She was in a role with kind of as an announcer and like would do the pre-shows and stuff not too long ago, and then she separated with the company, and you didn't even really hear why, but it's good to see. Obviously, she's still in good graces with the company, and they invite her back, and she makes the first ever Women's Royal Rumble elimination by eliminating Mandy Rose, which was kind of surprised. I mean, I understand they give it to Lita because she deserves, what a pioneer in women's wrestling, and so certainly deserves that, but it's like you're giving it to you're not even a part-time, these aren't even part-timers at this. Like sometimes with the men, you're like, okay, Brock Lesnar part-timer, John Cena part-timer. These are legends who are coming back for the Royal Rumble match, and that's kind of where this whole thing got kind of weird. I thought it would be better to invite people like Santana Garrett, Barbie Hayden, maybe cheerleader Melissa Anderson, people like that, who like the independent women's wrestlers, and I know some of them are under contract with other companies and that doing stuff like that, but give them the spots rather than. I mean, it's nice to see a couple of these old people, but the legends stole the show. Because if you think about, the match was kind of Sasha, Becky, Logan, Rose, kind of quiet. Lita, you get your first really crowd into it a little bit. They love seeing Lita. Lita makes the elimination. You have Cara Sane, who kind of got a little. People remembered her from the Mae Young Classic, and so she kind of got a little bit of a push. Tamina didn't do anything, which was kind of surprising. Then you had Brooke from Titus O'Neil's kind of, and another legend, Tori Wilson, got a little bit of a push. Nice to see Tori Wilson. That's even going back even about the same as Lita. But she was in WCW. Then you have Sonya Deville, Liv Morgan, and then Molly Holly comes out. And hey, we just interviewed Molly on Thursday of this week, and I knew there was an outside shot that she could end up coming to this Royal Rumble and being a part of it, because I knew, she certainly could still do it, and I know she's always talks great about WWE, and so under very good things with WWE right now, but I decided I didn't want to, because I figured I'd put her in a spot if I asked her. But we talked a little bit about the Rumble as a whole, but I didn't specifically ask her if she was going to be in it. So that was just 3 days ago. I'm talking to Molly Holly, and then now today I see her in the Royal Rumble, and that was just great, and really happy for her. I hope she had a really good experience at it, and she's just a wonderful person. And hey, and notice how they gave her props to, I believe it was Stephanie McMahon said, one of the most respected women ever in the business, and that is so true. So good job, Molly. We're glad to see you there, and thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us earlier this week. Lana and then Michelle McCool comes. So that's the thing. You have like Lana, who's still wrestling now, sandwiched between Molly Holly and Michelle McCool, and the fans are way more excited about Molly Holly and then Michelle McCool. And that's the thing. These legends kept coming out, and they were the ones that were stealing all the thunder. And I believe the legends were even doing more of the eliminating. I believe Michelle, if my official count is correct, I believe Michelle McCool had 5 eliminations, which was the most of any women there. And wow. yeah, so you're not really. This is turning into more of a rundown nostalgia lane than it is to this great Royal Rumble women's match of all these women showing all their talents, because you have so many people. Well, at the end, we'll do a count of how many comebacks there were and how many actual women there were. Ruby Riott, and then Vicky Guerrero. I love Vicky Guerrero. I love her character. But that just did not work. Did you guys feel that too? Maybe you loved it. Maybe it was more nostalgia, but that did not work at all. If she could have come down, said excuse me a couple times, and then got thrown over or something. But it was just, the whole thing just kind of stopped, and it was really weird. And it was kind of one of those, like, this is supposed to be that would never happen in the men's Rumble. This is supposed to be the women's Royal Rumble. These women are talented. And you have the little thing there that's totally did not work. Yeah, and they could have thrown in someone else for her, but like I said, and I really like Vicky Guerrero, and like her, and I loved her character, so I have no problems with her itself. It's just that spot did not work in the Royal Rumble. Carmella comes out. I guess Vicky did hit Carmella, which was the most impactful thing she did. Natalia, definitely kind of a favorite. And then Kelly, more nostalgia. Naomi, Jacqueline, another old-timer. Jax, Ember Moon from NXT, injured, but so that was kind of interesting. And you did get to see Moon and Oksana. Oksana would be number 25. Beth Phoenix would be number 24. So you got to see Moon and Oksana have that one show-off. That was probably, until the very end, that was the biggest crowd interaction for current women superstars. And so it took until number 25, Oksana, and that was because of NXT when they had their little thing. So because you had, well, we'll get to it, I guess, but you had a bigger pop with Mickie James and Trish Stratus than you did for that, because number 26 was Mickie James. You have the two Bellas at 27, 28. I guess Mickie James is still wrestling, but she's kind of half and half nostalgia, half wrestling. Bayley at number 29, and then Trish Stratus was a nice surprise at 30. And then, yeah, you have the Stratus Mickie James stare off, and that got the pop of the night. People remembered WrestleMania 22, or even before that, when Mickie James came up. If you didn't watch it, I guess that would be about 12 years ago now. Mickie James was supposed to be this crazed fan who kind of started stalking Trish Stratus, and at first it was a fan and stuff like that, but then Trish said, okay, you have to kind of hold back a little bit, you're getting a little bit creepy, and it worked out perfect. Then Mickie James turned on her. Mickie James won the title from her WrestleMania 22, so 12 years ago. And yeah, Mickie James was a legitimate women's wrestler. Before that, she wrestled in Independence as Alexa Lorelei or something like that. So yeah, but the pop of the night then, Trish Stratus and Mickie James, two people who are not on the, or I guess Mickie James is on the current, I do admit Mickie James is on the current roster, but the reason they popped with her and Trish Stratus was because this was something from 12 years ago. And, okay, and I have to say it too, and a lot of people were saying this ahead of time, but Stephanie McMahon did not do the women any favors. I have no problem with Stephanie McMahon. I love the McMahon family as a whole. I mean, I think the McMahon family, I have no problems with as a whole. Vince McMahon does wonderful because he always puts the wrestlers over, even if it means looking really stupid himself. So he's so good. Linda's obviously in the White House right now, so she's not in the scene anymore. Shane likes to do kind of the wild and crazy stuff, and likes to be a part of it. And some people get a little bit of sick of him at WrestleMania, but he's usually a face, and he usually gets a huge pop, and the people love his, I mean, jumping off the Hell in the Cell and the Undertaker. That was loved. People loved that, and so that wasn't a problem. Stephanie McMahon makes a great heel when she's with Triple H. Makes a great heel when with Authority. But the same problem I have with Triple H. I love Triple H as a wrestler. I loved him with DX, especially that last one with Michaels and Hornswoggle and stuff like that. But the problem is with Triple H being married into the McMahon family, has some say. He doesn't want to make himself look bad in order to sometimes do the right thing for the company. They always say what's best for business, but that doesn't mean making Triple H or Stephanie look bad. Vince would always make himself look like a complete idiot because it was so entertaining and stuff like that. Those two didn't. So now you have Stephanie coming out and announcing. It wasn't good at all. Man, the King, because I believe the announcers were the same. There might have been, were the announcers the same except for the King and Stephanie McMahon switching places? Think of how much better the King was than Stephanie McMahon. Not doing the women any favors there. Sorry, Stephanie. Like I said, it's nothing personal against you, but we kind of saw this coming, and that would have been a time. I know you wanted to be a part of it. I mean, and you should be proud. The women have come so far and everything else like that, but we really didn't need you announcing. We needed somebody else announcing. The purpose of as Jim Ross would say, the purpose of the announcers is to put the wrestlers over. The announcers are never supposed to be a big part of it. Stephanie was a little bit too much of a part of it. And then she and it was almost like she was kind of grasping at straws of kept putting the women over completely. I mean, during the men's match, you weren't putting the men over the whole time. And yes, I understand. This is wonderful. You have the first ever Women's Royal Rumble. I think it was definitely good enough that we'll have a second and a third, and we'll keep going. And the talent just keeps getting better and better. And these women are amazing. The Hell in the Cell matches and stuff like that too. I mean, they're getting it all. The Money in the Bank ladder match was better overall than this was, and that was kind of where it maybe hurt them. And I don't know. I think part of it was just too much nostalgia. It turned into more of a nostalgia event. You need a couple less nostalgic people and a couple more people that were maybe more legitimate contenders and stuff like that. But overall, the match was fine. It was a good Royal Rumble match. But yeah, and especially with the men stealing the show, it was like that. But do you agree with me? Maybe you think the Women's Royal Rumble match stole the show, because like I said, on social media, there are some people that definitely think that, so I'll be interested to see. The only other thing I can ask, hey, if you made it this far and listened, I try to do this. We actually just interviewed Molly Holly earlier this week, so you can listen to that interview. She tells some great stories. We hear some, like her WrestleMania 18 story of winning and losing the Hardcore Championship, and I think she tells a couple things that no one else has really known. She shared a couple of those. I asked her if she could share a few things that maybe no one knows, and I think she did a really good job of that. So listen to that interview. That was just earlier this week. And please subscribe, though. You know YouTube's changing. Eventually I'll get up to 1,000 subscribers, but it's going to take me a while yet, but I'm just going to keep working my way up there and keep making videos and telling them. We're on the road to WrestleMania. We're about 2 months. I've just talked to my friend in New Orleans, and we kind of have our whole WrestleMania trip planned. So I'll bring you a whole bunch of videos from WrestleMania too, and hopefully, if you're going to WrestleMania, let me know down below, and who knows, maybe we'll run into each other or something like that as well. So thanks for listening, and we'll be